Hello, and welcome to episode 71 of Gondor Calls for Ale, a Middle-earth strategy battle games podcast. I am once again your host, Sam Gallagher, and still with me is my brother, Ben.
Hello and welcome to the show. Once again, Sam, have you ever been anything else?
Oh, sometimes I've been known as San Gallagher, but no, mostly I just thought I'd mix it up, keep you on your toes, see what you do. So yes, Ben, yes, episode 71. We're one episode closer than the last time I brought it up, or we mentioned it, but we're getting towards that 100th episode. Exciting, exciting.
Yeah.
And like all 70 episodes before it, Ben, in this episode, the first and most important question is, what are you drinking? What are you having to drink this fine evening?
Oh, well, Sam, in honor of the army which I rode to battle with in this episode, I have myself a Guthwine's IPA.
Mm.
Whenever you open this beer, roll a d6. On a roll of a 6, Sam, you get another beer.
Very good. Very good. I was like, I don't know what that is, but I figured it out. It's a sword. Figured it out.
It's Emma's sword. All right, Sam, so what are you drinking for this episode? Well, I have my tasty IPA.
Well, Ben, I'm having a San Gebier, which is a beer with a rush flavor as bold as the rapids of the Anduin, and brewed for those who dare the journey.
Delicious. Delicious. I'm sure it'll be very tasty.
Oh, it is. Oh, it is. All right, Ben. So, this episode, this surprisingly not special episode to you, but
Oh, I
in
thought I
this
switched it up. I
episode,
thought I switched it up. I caught you off guard there. You were waiting for it. You were waiting
oh,
for
I
it.
was. I was gonna laugh, but then I kind of laughed that it wasn't. Anyway, um, in this episode, we're going to be talking about some stuff. Ben, do you want to inform me, the listener, the viewer, perhaps, what we're going to be chatting about?
Well, Sam, before we get into the meat and potatoes of the
Nailed it.
episode, we will be chatting a little bit about some cool hobby projects that Sam and I have been sent by some of our dear listeners and viewers. We're going to look at some interesting army lists, and then we're going to be covering our attendance to Mini Earth, a 450-point tournament held in the store, whose name I've already forgotten, in Connecticut, just this past weekend.
I would like to say that I know the town and the store, but I don't.
No.
It was something Game Center or Game Space. Anyway,
Yeah, that's what happens
that is
when you just
neither.
tap on a link and go, take me there. And you don't
Yes.
read what you've tapped on.
Though sometimes we don't have the best track record of even doing that, Ben. So,
That's true.
um,
That's true.
anyway, we digress. If you're new here to Gondor Calls for Ale, once upon a time, Ben and I drove for 2.5 hours to go to a tournament and had driven to 2.5 hours to the wrong store.
True.
And then the other store was like an hour plus away, and we missed the event. So,
Yeah. We could have
welcome.
skipped round
That's how
one
we
and played
do
each other in
at
round
good
two
level.
and elected not to.
What was that?
I think, didn't they give us the option of skipping round one, playing each other in round two, and then participating in round three normally or something like that? And we were just like,
Yeah, I think so. But it was like a 2-day event. So I mean, they were totally chill about it, which is cool. But we opted just to go home and play games against each other instead, which was potentially more fun. Anyway, we digress into events past. Let's get into events that are, and perhaps events that may never come to pass.
may yet come to pass. May yet come to pass. You almost had it.
I think she says at some point there's definitely a may never. Anyway, it
But
doesn't
may
matter.
never, yeah.
So we're making sure that we're on the correct screen, and then my buttons will work. So yeah, we're getting into some hobby spotlight. Then this is, of course, the section of the episode that we have recently added in 2025, a little hobby spotlight where we put some pictures up of stuff that our people in our community have been working on. And by community, I mean our Discord server. So if you are interested in being spotlit for your hobby or any other just hobby. If you want your hobby spotlighted, you too can join our Discord server. It's a rapidly growing community of awesome people, mostly. I was going to make some joke about how I bring all the awesome. I'm not really sure where we're going with this. But anyway, if you want to join that, there is
The awesome people bring the awesome.
Yes,
Sure.
yeah, but
People
mostly
are
me. This low volume over here is really, I am just going to roll through you this entire episode. Anyway, so if you're interested in joining our Discord server and you want to post stuff up or have stuff potentially shown in the podcast, there should be a link in the description of wherever you're listening or watching this podcast. To join the server, it is a cool place. We have discussions about various rules, army lists, whatever. Just hang out. So yeah, we'll get into it, Ben. There was something else I was going to say, but it has since gone. So, oh yes, I was going to say, I realized that we maybe didn't do the best job of describing what was going on or what we were showing last time. So, given that some people still enjoy our content primarily as a audio only, we should probably not just be like, "Oh, that's really cool. Oh yes, I love this part," but we should rather than getting them a box, Ben, we should describe it to them.
Yeah, indeed. Ooh.
All right. Moving into it.
If anything says Lord of the Rings, Sam, it's giant spiders. It's Shelob and Shagrat and Gorbag fighting over the shiny shirt.
Yeah. So obviously this is not painting hobby, but certainly some building, and oh boy, building Shelob is quite the challenge. And I actually really like what he's done here is putting Frodo in the like spider wrap, or the cobweb wrapped Frodo like on the base, kind of in front of, like, underneath the front of Shelob is really cool. Shelob looks built beautifully. The other two, less of a challenge to build, but still probably fairly annoying to clean as they are metal models.
Yeah, do they still? I guess of course, the Games Workshop have started remaking models in metal again that were fine cast.
They were never fine cast.
They were never fine cast, no.
Yeah, no, and Games Workshop has, like, years ago stopped turning stuff into fine cast. So if it's in metal, it'll be reproduced. If it was ever in metal and comes back, it'll be produced in metal.
Nice.
I think, as in, like, the stuff that's in fine cast isn't going to change. It's going to stay. So yeah, pretty cool. This is certainly an army that I'm intrigued by now in this edition. So one of the reasons I wanted to highlight it.
Cool, awesome. Thanks for sharing. Very cool.
Yes, yeah.
Oh, look at this, Sam. We've got here some hill tribesmen and some wildmen, some of the old metal wildmen mixed in. Oh, looking very cool.
Super cool. A big horde of, I have no idea, 20 plus wildmen, or new hill tribes mixed with old wildmen of Dunland. You can definitely pick out the old ones, just because they're not as fine, like, featured, I guess. Mm-hmm. But they do fit in rather well, which is kind of cool to see. Yeah,
the aesthetic definitely matches, They look good together.
Yeah. And I really like the basing on these guys as well. I mean, I think they look awesome. Plus, they're all fully painted, so always a plus in my book.
Yeah, I like the color palette too. A little bit of a variation on just browns and grays. Got some faded, worn colors in there, which I like. It looks good.
Yeah, very cool. All right, so that's what we had for hobby this time round. There was some other things just in our general hobby, but not specifically put in to be shown off on the podcast. So again, if you want to show off some of your nicely painted models or stuff you're building, converting, whatever, jump in the Discord and share it. So now, Ben, into an army worthy of Gondor calls for ale, I guess.
Yeah.
Do you want to let us know? So what is this section here?
This is just sort of a bit of a list review where Sam and I are going to talk about our thoughts and feelings on some lists that people have shared, again on our Discord channel, in the specific channel to be shared in the show. And this is not necessarily like a competitive feedback on the list. In fact, it's almost certainly not that. It's more just how we feel about these lists, how fun we think they'd be to play, how thematic are they, whether they, and since we picked them for the show, we will have good feelings about them, I think, Sam.
Yeah. All right, let's dive on in.
Kirith Ungol, go with the models we just saw.
Yeah, do you want to go through this list?
Yeah, all right. We've got 650 points, 46 models, 3 bows, Leading it, we have Shagrat, captain of Kirathongal. In his warband, there are 5 Mordor Uruk-hai with two-handed weapons, and then 10 more regular Mordor Uruk-hai. We've got Gorbag, orc captain, with a Mordor orc drummer, a Mordor orc warrior with a banner, 5 Mordor orc warriors with shield, and 8 Mordor orc warriors with spear. And we've got a Mordor orc taskmaster. He's got 3 orcs with bows, 4 orcs with shield, and 5 orcs with spear. And finally, but certainly not leastly, we have Shelob. Very cool. 46 models at 650 points. That's a lot of guys.
Yeah, yeah, it's a pretty low defense army, but
Mm-hmm.
it can definitely pack a real punch, and you really don't want to be a 2-wound model fighting this.
No, no, I
Given,
really like
well,
the
I guess it depends
5.
on how the people roll, but
Yeah,
plenty of cleave and blow around.
yeah, really like the 5 Mordor Uruk-hai with two-handed weapons. I think that's
Yeah,
cool. Especially two-handed weapons in the new edition seem a lot more viable, and I'm excited to see people putting them on the board.
yeah, it's interesting, right? Because it's 15, 16 Uruk-hai if you count Shagrat, so there's significantly more orcs,
Yeah,
and like obviously,
one.
yeah, obviously you have to balance. Um, because you can't like split the orcs into you can't put the orcs in the warband led by an Uruk-hai and vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
So and the Uruk-hai captains are more expensive, but I do yeah I do it's interesting. There's
It's the third warband, right?
650 points.
Because both Gorbag and Shagrat's warbands are full. They're both heroes of valor, I assume. They've both got 15 warriors in their warbands. So for that third warband, are you taking an orc captain or a Uruk-hai captain, or do you take both and like just drastically go down in models? I don't know.
That's what I was kind of saying. I think I would consider that. I think I like this. I like the inclusion of the Taskmaster for sure.
Yeah, me too.
I I think the potential of the whips of the Masters is pretty cool. Um,
Feels on theme too.
yeah, yeah. So I think it's, personal but or the other thing is, do you go with less orcs and more Uruk-hai because
Mm.
they're I guess the orcs with shield are higher defense than the Uruk-hai, but the Uruk-hai are going to hit way harder. They've got the higher fight, they've got the higher strength. So
Yeah.
probably personal preference as much as anything, and how many of those metal models do you want? Like how many sandwiches do you want versus or conversions do you feel like doing?
Yeah. Mm. Very cool. This is definitely an army that I would like to get on the table too at some point. So or stay on the table in the show more, whether it's you or me, Sam. I think Kirathongal should come to Gondor Calls for Ale.
Yeah, and hopefully Shagrat, captain of Kirathungal, will prove his quality because last edition he proved it to be the very worst.
Well, we know why he got sent back. He was, he wasn't performing well on the front lines. He was fired from frontline combat.
Yeah. Yeah, it will be. I will be very curious to see how he does. Anyway, all right, moving on into the next army list, which I am going to take, Ben, because you have forsworn the this mighty army in this edition. You have kicked them to the curb, and so you can
I don't
play
know
other
that that's
things.
true, but okay.
I'm the one who's been more. Anyway, if you're listening, we're going to go into it, and then I'll tell you why that I'm more correct, and Ben won't be able to correct me because I can just talk louder than he can at this point. Mostly because my laptop's having issues hearing him properly. Anyway, so this is the army of Gundabad. It has 18 models. It is 600 points. It is led by a Gundabad Orc captain. In his warband, we have 1 Gundabad Orc warrior with banner and shield, 9 Gundabad berserkers, 1 Gundabad Orc warrior with spear. We've got an Orc captain leading 1 Troll Brute in warband 2, and we've got a Gundabad Orc captain leading 1 Troll Brute in warband 3. So 2 Troll Brutes, 3 captains, bunch of berserkers, and some other Gundabadians.
Mm. It's 8 might at 600 points. That's quite a lot. Because each of the
Yeah.
troll brutes has got a point of might. At first, I was like, oh, it's 6 might, and then I was like, oh wait, it's 8.
Yeah, they sort of do because it can basically only be used for moves that only affect the Troll Brute.
Yeah, but this army is about the troll brutes. So all of your move,
Sure.
the reason you're calling moves in this army is so that you can get tramples. So it's
I
you've got 8 moves that you can call.
I think if it were me, Ben,
If it were you, Sam.
if it were me, I would drop at least one of those orc captains. So I have two things, right? What I was going to say is turn all three captains into Bolg or Azog. I think if you turn them into Azog, you have to drop one. You like drop the Gundabad Orc Warrior with Spear and get like a Goblin or something.
Sure.
No, I guess not because they're 6 points. Anyway, so you play some points down. But I like Bolg because if you kill 8 models, you can get Mighty Hero, which can be really nice, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or you drop one of the captains and throw in another 6 Gundabad Orc Warriors or 4 Berserkers. One of the reasons I think having Bolg or Azog is given that your banners are like super good, right? Your army bonuses, they only work while your leader's alive. And an orc captain is decidedly easier to kill than either Bolg or Azog. Yes, if you want to, you can like run your orc captain who's the leader and just like, or the general, and just like hide him in a, like I'm gonna go prone in this building. But I'm also like, but then what are you doing, man? You're telling me that like your orc leader isn't leading from the front or isn't at least trying to get into some amount of combat? Like I don't think so. So.
I think it's cool. I understand why Bolg and Azog aren't in there at 600 points trying to get 2 trolls. I can see why they're not in there, but I also see your point.
About wanting to. You drop the 2 captains that are each leading the troll and put a 3rd troll in. If you want the army to be about trolls.
Well, but then you're out of warband slots.
No, you're not. The troll brutes are independent heroes.
Oh, they're independent heroes. You run them independently. Ooh, 3 troll brutes. 3 troll brutes. Oh my god.
So, anyway, I like it. I want to know how it does. I believe this is being brought to the Valentine's Day massacre or something. So an event coming up soon. So I look forward to hearing all about it.
Yeah, exactly. Exciting stuff.
And with that, we're going to get into the event, the tournament that Ben and I attended. The first one of the new edition for me, Ben's second one. But before we do, we're just going to say again, if you want to show off a cool army list you've written or some awesome models you've built or painted or terrain, kind of any hobby Middle-earth related thing, definitely jump in our Discord. We send out a big message to everyone shortly before we record every time and say, hey, we're looking for stuff to show off, send it on in. If you want to go that one step further, Ben, that one step closer to Mount Doom, you too can join Gondor Calls for Ale's Patreon. That's truly what helps us do all of this ridiculous podcasting, all of this silly stuff we do. We appreciate every single one of our glorious Patreons and would love to have you join their ranks. If you do, you can get some sweet free dice. You get some additional episodes. We've been a bit lax on that recently, but fear not, that's all about to change. And on top of that, we have started doing a monthly hobby hang. We had one last week that I think was quite the success. I had a grand old time. Excellent. We've got another one coming up. I believe we're going to do the 21st of February. So you got a little bit of time to jump on in to Patreon and join in for next month's hobby hang.
Yeah, come join the throng. Let us join the throng.
Yes. I think with that final plug, we're going to move on into Mini Earth, an MESBG tournament, Ben.
All right, tell us. Oh, it's me first. Me first. All right, Sam. So, as preluded perhaps by my cunning and witty beer, I rode forth into this event with the Riders of Éomer. We left Gandalf at home. It's just Éomer and some riders and a captain of Rohan. 450 points. We got 17 models. Leading it is, of course, Éomer on Firefoot with armor and shield. In his warband, there is 1 rider of Rohan with banner, 6 riders of Rohan, and 3 riders of Rohan with throwing spears. Next, we've got a captain on horse. That's it. He just has a horse, no shield, no heavy armor, just the horse. In his warband, there are 3 riders of Rohan and 2 riders of Rohan with throwing spears for a total of 17 models. 15 bonus.
Yeah. Interesting. So yeah, what's new? I realize we should talk about this, given that
Oh yeah,
uh,
good.
these armies are no longer your bog standard army from the previous edition. Bog standard and boring, they are not, Ben,
No, no,
in the
no.
new edition. So what's new for the riders of Aomir?
Ooh, so we've got a whole lot of new things, really. I think most importantly is that AMA gets to call free heroic combats. Additionally, the way that the Riders of Rohan work now is it's just a rider special rule that they get +1 fight on the turn that they charge if they're within 12 inches of the general. So they're getting that bonus now. So your riders are 5/4 when they charge next to Aemir, which is great. And also the army now gets the original Rohan army bonus of getting +1 strength on the charge, regardless of where they are on the tabletop. So we're getting a Riders of Rohan as well. And of course, there's the Gandalf's Blinding Light special rule, which I am not benefiting from because I left Gandalf at home.
Cool. Very
And
cool.
Aemir on Firefoot is movement 12, which I think is something else worth noting.
Yeah, movement
Movement
12
12 on a
and
hero
fight
with
stick.
3 heroic combats is so much fun.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, I look forward to hearing how you do. And we're moving on into an objectively more exciting army. That's right. It's Badur's Troll Horde, or actually, it's just Badur's Horde. We have an army built at the precise points level I wanted it, which was 447 points. We have 26 models, and we're going to get into it. Then we've got an army that's led by Badur Hill Troll Chieftain. He's says the leader, but he's the general. That needs to be changed because I keep saying leader, and it's definitely general. So we've got Badur. In his warband, we've got 1 Hill Troll, we've got 5 Angmar Orc Warriors with shield, we've got 4 Angmar Orc Warriors with spear, we've got 1 Angmar Orc Warrior with a banner, we've got 2 Angmar Warg Riders with shield and throwing spears. And then, oh wait, there's more. We have an Angmar Orc Captain. In his warband, we've got 3 Angmar Orc Warg Riders with shields and throwing spears, 4 Angmar Orc Warriors with shield, and 4 Angmar Orc Warriors with spears. Yes, yes.
Ooh, very exciting. Got to go hack a bunch of shields off your spear orcs, I suspect.
Yes and no. Obviously, they can't take them. It's pretty easy just to be like, the dudes with spears don't have shields because they can't. And if I was a shitty person, it would also be easy to like somebody's assuming their defense and rolling to basically, if they you tell them that and then you just see their roll and be like, oh no, you needed a 4 in this situation, that one's dead. I, however, did a bad job of just seeing shield and putting him in the front rank and then realizing it was a spear dude and being like, whoops, this was a mistake. So for my own personal benefit, I will eventually change that.
Yeah. Nice, an exciting army. I'm super excited to see the Hill Troll in there as well as Burder. Of course, you've got to have Burder in Burder's Horde. It's cool to see the Hill Troll, and I look forward to hearing all about it, especially your thoughts on the ambush rule. I think that
so I'm going to...
Oh yeah, tell us about the rules.
Yeah, so I'm going to just talk about the rules really quick. I think it's just the 2 special rules. One of them is all your models get a woodland creature and cave dweller, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, nice.
And then the other big one is, of course, the ambush special rule. It is just those 2, yeah. Oh no, it's not. There's a third one. Yeah, so it's an ambush special rule. Before anyone deploys, you can decide to deploy Burder and ambush, and on turn 3 he can jump out of a piece of terrain. Him and his whole warband, and they show up and are within 1 inch of a terrain feature that you've chosen. It says it has to be one that they could feasibly be hiding in. So a pool of water, maybe not.
Snorkels. I'm okay with that one. It's the popping out of a hedge that's a little bit like,
Right. Or a single tree. Not that you'd be able to fit his warband within range of a single tree. And then the other one is Birdo gets fearsome foe. If he kills an enemy hero in combat, he gains the fearless special rule for the remainder of the game. Definitely didn't bother reading that. Don't actually think it came up.
Sam, do you know why hill trolls paint their toenails red?
To hide in cherry trees.
Yeah.
All
exactly.
right. So yeah, that is my 450 point Birdo's Horde army.
Exciting stuff. Cool.
Shall we get into round 1?
round one. Ooh, me first as well. To the death for round one, Sam. Do you want to give us a rundown of the new to the death scenario?
I sure do, as soon as I pull up my book. To the death, Ben. If you're viewing, you can see this beautiful deployment map that I have put into the slideshow. If you are listening, I can either get you a box or describe it to you. Just kidding. I'll describe it to you. It's a 12-inch up deployment zone. Look at that. Super easy. We have a game that lasts until one force has been reduced to 25% of its starting number. We have some victory points here, Ben. You score one victory point if the enemy general was wounded during the game. If the enemy general has been wounded and only has one wound remaining, then instead you score 3 victory points. If the enemy general has been removed as a casualty, instead you score 5 victory points. You score 3 victory points if the enemy army is broken at the end of the game. If the enemy army is broken and yours is not, instead you score 5 victory points. You score 2 victory points if your opponent has no banners remaining at the end of the game. You score 1 victory point if you have at least 1 banner remaining at the end of the game. If you have more banners remaining than your opponent, instead you score 2. You score 3 victory points if the enemy army has been reduced to 25% of its starting number. And you score 1 victory point for each enemy hero that has been removed as a casualty, up to a maximum of 3. There we go. New to the death.
Yeah, that last one, killing heroes, is a little bit of assassination or Clash by Moonlight thing happening there. I like it.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. All right, Ben, we're going to get into your game one, your round one. Who were you playing and what were they playing?
All right, I was playing against Brandon, who is a listener of the show. So thank you for listening. Thank you for watching, Brandon. Thank you for the game. It was a fantastic game. We've played at a number of the New England events that we've gone to, and Brandon was playing Ugluk's scouts in his army. He just had Ugluk and 2 orc captains. He had 9 Urukai scouts with bows, 8 or so other Urukai, and a whole lot of orcs with shields, some orcs with spears, just, orcs and Urukai. I believe the total was 39 models. It was almost 40, I think. It was quite a lot of bodies, yeah. And I, unfortunately, have misplaced my score sheet, so I'm not going to be able to give you the blow-by-blow that I would like. But essentially, I deployed my army. We were fighting in some Asgiliath ruins. I deployed my army on either side of this building, this manor building in the center of my deployment zone, and Brandon deployed his army in a long thin line. And I moved up my army half speed, moved up 5 inches so I can fire all my bows. And Brandon stood still and fired all of his bows. And on turn 1, I got the first and only shooting casualty of the game. We spent 5 turns of shooting, and the first few turns of this game, and our arrows, as they say, Sam, blotted out the sun. So we just fought in the shade because the bows and arrows were completely ineffective. Brandon managed to kill 1 of my horses with shooting. That was it. Over 5 turns, both of us taking shots with all of our bows. Those entire 5 turns, absolutely nothing happened. I was moving forwards. Brandon was moving backwards a little bit. You can see in this image here on the screen, there is a building with some steps in the center of his deployment zone. And essentially what he ends up doing is moving his army backwards to either side of that building. And there is room in his deployment zone for him to go around the back. I initially, because he was in front of it on either side of that tree to begin with, I initially expected him to go back. When he said he was going to move backwards, I initially expected him to sort of go back in a clump. So that his army would be all together, but then he would lose the advantage of his numbers. So he chose to split his forces. I'm not sure if it was 100% the right call, but there is some mobility through that building as well with the stairs. There are some more stairs going back down towards the backboard edge. But once he split his forces, I decided just to keep the pressure on, just to keep moving forwards. Every time he moved out of my charge range, I would just move up again, so that the 2 sides of his army did stay separated. And on turn 6, when we finally got combat after all of this ineffective shooting, I was crashing into the forces on my left-hand side, which is up near the top there. So this was just me taking lots of pictures of the beginning. And over the first, I think, so in the first run of combat, AMA gets to call a free heroic combat, just runs through 4 guys. I win most of the fights, ride down a whole bunch of orcs. I think I killed 7 or 8 models on that first clash.
Dang.
Brandon gets priority on the next turn. and gets the option to choose priority, gives priority to himself, and we get a move off. The move off goes to Brandon, and I'm countercharged. I think he put 5 guys into AMA. There it is. Yeah, you can see 5 guys into AMA. He did a really good job of zoning him out too, so that I couldn't even really peel any of them out with my second wave of riders that I'd left outside of charge range. He managed to get a couple of guys into my banner as well, and his Orc captain and an Urukai charge into my Rohan captain. And you can't quite see him, or you can just see the edge of his base in the top left of this image, but Ugluk is up in the building over there. He ran over he was on the other flank, which is why I hit this flank. And he had run up in the building with the intention of using his head taker special roll. He chopped off someone's head, was brandishing it in the air to encourage his forces to fight harder. And fight harder they did. Aomer didn't bother calling his heroic combat. He was charged. He's only got 3 dice. He's fighting a bunch of guys, so he's not going anywhere. But he does win his combat, does kill 3 of the orcs, so that's okay. Unfortunately, my Rohan captain gets chopped down this turn because between the Orc captain and the Urukai, they've got animosity and +1 to wound from the head taker, so they're getting +2 to wound against my defense 5 captain, and they put 2 wounds through on my captain, and he rolled a 1 on his fate and was dragged down. The captain model there is my Theodred conversion because I needed a Rohan guy without a shield or a helmet. I was going to use Erkenbrand, but Erkenbrand has very clearly got a huge shield. And my banner was also killed this turn, which was pretty unfortunate. I didn't manage to get anyone into base contact. I know.
Classic Ben.
Classic Ben. So bad. So bad. But that's okay. I take priority. Next turn, we get another move off. That captain is now out of might. Aomer wins the move off, and we re-engage. I didn't manage to get models into the captain. He was up in some ruins. No, I didn't win the move off. That's right. Random won the move off. I get re-engaged again, but there are now not enough orcs over there for Aomer to get completely shut down. So he was able to call his heroic combat this turn and get away. On the other flank, Brandon had pushed up the handful of riders that I'd left over there. He'd rushed them with his other captain and a handful of orcs. And, they charged into me. Wasn't a whole lot I could do about it. My one dismounted Rohirrim over there, whose noble horse had been shot away in turn 5, was also fighting over there. And in this turn, what I decided to do was call my free heroic combat with Aomer and then take him and the rest of his riders, because I had horses around over there. I'd got Aomer into one guy, peeled the other guys off at Aomer, put a bunch of guys, I think 4 other riders into combat with Aomer, called Aomer's combat, and just gone riding off with Aomer and those 4 guys all the way back to threaten the other captain on the other flank, because at this point Brandon's ahead on victory points, because he's got 1 victory point for killing my captain, and I still haven't broken him. I'm not broken, so he's just got 1 victory point to my 0.
Well, does he not have a banner?
He does have a banner, yeah. So he's got.
So he's up by 5.
He's up by 5, yeah. So I need to get that. I need to get that break, which I managed to do over the next couple of turns. Essentially, Aomer just called free heroic combats, and I managed to break him without being broken. Although you've thrown me off, I'm maybe realizing, did we add that up wrong? Maybe he didn't kill my banner. Oh god, it's terrible. I lost my skill sheet. Maybe he didn't kill my banner, because I end up winning this one. Can you go ahead a slide and see if there's? Oh, is this the last slide?
No, this is it.
All right, can't go ahead a slide. Oh, too bad. So Aomer rides off to that other flank, chasing down the captain. Brandon wins priority on the next turn, and I elect not to call a move with Aomer because I wanted to save his might just in case I needed it. And Brandon manages to run and hide his captain in the house that is over on that flank. So his captain escapes me, and then Aomer manages to charge off into the orc lines, calls a heroic combat, kills 4 models. I take priority next turn. I win the move off between Aomer and Ugluk. Aomer goes back in to the orcs, kills another 4 models, and gets me the break. Which is what I needed. And I recall now that I did have my banner over there because at one point I had it in the heroic combat with Aomer to move it around with him. So my banner didn't die. It did get charged, but it won that fight. Is what I'm now remembering. So I won this one. It would have been really close. I think 6-3. We've both got a banner for 2 victory points. I got the break without being broken, and he killed a hero of mine. So 7-3.
Well,
He's got 2 victory points for a banner and one for killing my captain. I broke him without being broken for 5 and have a banner for 2. Right? I got that right?
well, you only get one for each having a banner alive at the end of the game.
Okay, just
because
kidding.
neither
So
you have more.
2 to 6 then.
All right.
But a super fun game, really thematic to see Riders of Aemir fighting Ugluk scouts without Gandalf. So a shame we weren't on the Rohan table or the Fangorn table.
Yeah.
All right, Sam. So that was the end of my game 1. Hit me with it. Who did Burda face for round 1?
Oh, Ben, well, I do have my score sheet here.
Look at you.
I was facing Daniel, and he was playing the Black Gate Opens, so we had a troll off. His army was the Super Troll, or was led by the Super Troll, and he also had the Mouth of Sauron on foot. And I think he had 23 models, so he had 21 Morannon orcs in that list. One of them had a banner. So we were playing on a kind of Rohani building, sort of looked more historical models than Lord of the Rings, which was fine. It was a fine board. It had a couple stands of trees and stuff. So I ended up deploying. Basically, I had this house that was in the middle of my deployment zone. I should say he was super stressed about whether Birdo was going to ambush or not. I was trying to organize all my stuff, and he was asking me about a million questions before the game was going. And so he was worried about it. I was like, I'm not actually sure when I need to declare it. Give me 2 seconds to get my stuff out. I'll find out. Anyway, so it was ended up being before you deploy. So I was like, well, I'm not going to ambush, man. You don't have to worry about it. Just give me a minute. So I deployed, and basically, I didn't really want Birdo to fight the Troll Chief. The Troll Chief outfights me. He's got 4 wounds. He's pretty beefy. So I deployed. I kind of split my army. I had my Warg Riders on my right-hand flank with my Orc, So my Warg Riders were more on the right flank, which was the side the Orc Captain was. Birdo was basically directly behind the house that was kind of in the middle of my deployment zone, and most of his warband was on my right-hand side. The Orc Captain Warg Riders were on the left. I can do left and right. It's fine. Don't worry about it. So we deploy there. We roll for priority. I win, and I choose to let Daniel go first. Daniel then uses his Fell Light. I can't actually remember what the name of that ability is. The Black Gate Opens army ability that lets you pick an enemy model. They take an intelligence test, and if they fail, you get to move them. So he picked my Hill Troll. Hill Trolls have an average intelligence of a 7+, which I proceeded to fail. He then said, okay, move that Hill Troll 6 inches directly backwards. I said, are you sure? Really? He's like, yep, 6 inches directly backwards. I was like, you're totally welcome to do that, man. If you do, I am going to move backwards. I'm not going to leave my Hill Troll 12 inches behind me or just stand here. You're going to have to come, just, fair's fair, just so you know. He's like, nope, 6 inches backwards. What else am I supposed to do? I was like, okay. We talked about it afterwards. I was like, you should have dragged him forwards because the rest of the game you had to chase me. Anyway, so Hill Troll moved backwards. In my turn, I just moved backwards.
Makes sense. You want to stay with your troll. Keep the troll.
Yeah, I sent the Warg Riders kind of up, and the way my sort of a big clump of orcs with my captains were kind of shuffled sideways to get to Birdo, and he just plowed everyone forwards. We get into turn 2 priority where Daniel wins, and he makes me go, and he then makes my banner take a intelligence test, which is he's an orc, so it's an 8+, which I fail, and then he moves it backwards or sideways or something. So I move my Hill Troll up basically and stand there and put some more orcs in, or put my Warg Riders in a place that they can't be charged. They're more than 12 inches out. But if he moves forwards, I can throw some throwing spears.
Yeah, sure. The rule, by the
Um,
way, Sam, is called the Temptation of Sauron.
yes. Yeah, it's cool. It's really cool, especially given that Spectres Fell-Light can only pull, they can't push, so you have to move towards them now, which I love that change.
Yep.
It does feel a little bit like Terra and Harboring of Evil,
Mm,
where it's better against evil armies than it is against good armies, which is kind
yeah.
of a bummer.
Yeah. I 100% agree.
But anyway, I mean, he, used it most every turn, and on turn three, when I once again won priority and made Daniel go first, I passed my Fell Light test,
Ooh.
or my Temptation of Sauron test, which was pretty exciting. So basically, my game plan kind of is here: is Burdill's like hiding behind this building.
I see that. Yeah.
Um, I want to put enough stuff on my right hand flank because he's clearly heading that way to draw his troll chief into the long side because the building's narrow side facing me, like long sides. It's a rectangle, long sides going towards him. Um, I wanted to draw the troll chief and a chunk of his army off that, and basically sacrifice a handful of orcs and then back up and try and get around. So the troll chief is like, hopefully I can continue being like, oh, there's enough here that it's worth. Like I would sacrifice my hill troll, right? Like if he wants to go, and then I can just kill the rest of his army and not worry about his troll chief. So that's my plan. So turn three, as I said, goes to me. I pass my Spectre test. We do some more moving. Again, I'm like throwing spears at people. Turn four
How was your
goes
shooting
to
this game, Sam? Your spears.
hmm.
How was your shooting this game? Your spears, were they effective? Did all my shooting was terrible.
Well, you'll find out once I get to it then. So turn four goes to me, and here I choose to keep priority um, because we're in a place where so he's now got his troll basically in line with this building, and he can charge into my line with a couple models. So I am like, I kind of want to win priority so I can back up a little bit and like not a huge amount, but back up enough that he commits into this side. I was stupid. I didn't play this super well, and I could have moved my orc captain 6 inches to where he could have called a move and affected those guys. I didn't. I forgot to do it last turn, so
Mm.
he decides to call a move with, I believe, the troll
Ooh.
chieftain. Yeah, a move with the troll chieftain, and I have nothing to counter it with. He throws him and some orcs into my lines. Oh, sorry, maybe I've skipped a turn. Anyway, it doesn't matter. That's basically what ends up happening. I think the previous turn, I think I skipped a turn. The previous turn, I killed one model with throwing spear. This turn, I killed three of his models with throwing
Oh,
spears,
saucy.
which was pretty nice. We get some combat. His troll chief, he charged in such a way he was fighting two orcs, and then kind of like trapped himself with his own model. So he was never going to be better than killing two orcs. I
Hmm.
threw some orcs around to even up the fights. I only lost three models this turn, which was definitely not too bad. So turn six went to me as well. Um, he calls a move. Or no, turn six goes to him. Sorry,
Hmm.
and he chose to keep priority. I now called a move with the orc captain because I think we're sort of I've long passed. So this was me drawing in the troll chief. So yeah, we're sort of so this is where we were. He called, or maybe anyway, it doesn't matter. He called a move with his captain, or with the mouth. I called a move with my captain because if I'd gotten it off, I would have been able to basically like pin some of his line and fade back with some of my guys. The move goes to him. He then fully withdraws to the other side of the house. So instead of what I wanted to do, which was draw him in and slam, close the door, he was starting to do the same thing with me. So I moved Burder up to the corner of this house and basically like ran my Wog Riders into this corner and just kind of hoped that my hill troll and orcs could die a little bit slowly. I once again passed my Spectre test. Um,
Oh, nice.
so so this was a kind of interesting turn. So this was and then I should say in the combat, his troll was fighting. just a couple orcs, and he spent a point of might to win the fight, I think. So he was down to one might on the troll, like because he was like, oh, I think I just really need to like kill models. And I was like, okay. So not mad about that. So the
Yeah,
next
you love
turn,
to
turn
see an orc
7.
drain might. You love to see an orc
Mhm.
drain some might.
Yeah, right. Definitely will take that test. So I lost, or take that trade. I lost 2 models that turn. Turn 7 goes to Daniel as well. He decides to keep it. Um, I um, I've moved Berda to basically be in the front of this house. He was within 6 inches of the troll. I didn't state it. My intention was that the troll couldn't see him. I was pretty sure the troll couldn't see him. So he, starts moving his stuff and he like measures the troll. I was like, well, you can't charge him because you can't see him, right? He's like, no, I can definitely see him. Then moves his troll. Whatever, fine. So he charges into Berda. Okay, we'll have to fight the troll chief. Um,
Oh dear.
or he called him move. That was right. I called him move with my captain. He called him move. Anyway, so he's out of might on his troll, which is nice at least because he had to call a move to do that. And I was like, even better if he can't reach Berda. He was like, I can't reach him. Fine, whatever. Mouth of Sauron transfixes Berda using 2 dice. I think he got like a 4. I was like, okay, I'll use, or maybe he got, I'll use 2 will to resist. Rolled a 2 high, and I was like, I can't burn through two will. Like he really shouldn't kill Berda this turn. Like
Hmm.
he, but bummer, not ideal. Um, then our lines relock. We get into combat. He like doesn't get the 6 with the troll. I do get the 6 with Berda and win the fight. And push the troll back, but don't do any wounds because Berda can't strike blows. I managed to kill 2 of his orcs and only lose 1 in return. Turn 8 goes to me. Um, he transfixes my hill, or so basically Birdo charges back into the troll chief because he's kind of pinned in by my own stuff, and there's not much point in moving
Sure.
away. Lines relock. He transfixes my hill troll, which he successfully manages to do, like right when he's like finally poised to get into combat. Um,
Poor troll.
Birder, of course, calls the strike. We get into combats. I kill 4 of his models and only lose 3 of my own. I successfully strike to be higher than him. Birdo struck up to a 10. He strikes 3 times in this game and gets a 10 every single time.
Ooh,
Um,
saucy.
so I win. I win the fight. It's Birdo and like one friend with a spear support fighting him. I get the 6. Um, and I rend his troll, which, to be fair, my opponent suggested I do that. I would have gotten to that conclusion myself anyway, because he wasn't trapped or anything. And the troll
Mm.
chief's only strength 7 and Birdo's strength 7, so it was looking for 4s. And Birdo just like absolutely cranks it and does he do 3 wounds?
Ooh.
No, he does 2 wounds, so it doesn't absolutely crank it. He does get 2 4 pluses and 1 3, and I could have spent a might, but I was like, no, I won't be greedy. I'll save it for the strikes. And he chooses not to take any of his 2 fate, which I was like, there are victory points to this, right? And he's like, yeah, that's fine. So I was like, okay, fine, whatever. Turn 9 we're on now. Also goes to me. He calls a move with the Mouth of Sauron. I call a move with my orc captain. I believe the move once again goes to him, so I just don't bother calling her with me. The mouth doesn't transfix anyone, doesn't cast any magic. So maybe actually the move went to me this time. Who's to say? We do some combat. Birdo strikes again, goes higher, win the fight, and then don't do any wounds. Tragedy
Oh
then.
no!
Tragedy has struck.
The
But I do
arm
manage to
wrestling
kill a
contest.
model. What was that?
You lost the arm wrestling contest.
Yeah, won the arm wrestling contest, just didn't snap his wrist. Um, I kill 1 model, lose 1 model. Those numbers are probably getting kind of fuzzy as to whether the killing was accurate or not.
Sure.
Turn 10 goes to me as well. At this point, he's totally out of might. Um, I charge back in with Birder into the troll chief. Lines relock. I think last turn the hill troll like finally got into combat, or he got charged by like 1 model, barged in, went into 2, killed 1 model, and then the rest of the game he's just like spell light or temptation of Sauron like away, which was really disappointing. The Hill Troll fought one combat this game.
Oh,
Birdo once again strikes, wins the combat, does one wound out of his 3 rolls, get 1/4. I've been rending, so out of 6 dice, or 9 dice total, I only managed to do 3 wounds, which is slightly disappointing. But what are you going to do? He then gets some disappointing rolls where he takes both of his fate and fails both of them. Nice. And then we continue fighting. Next turn goes to him. I think the Troll Chief charges back into Birder, and I'm like, ooh, getting slightly concerned because I'm out of might, so he's out fighting me. He then rolls like a spectacular 4 high, and Birder cranks it and gets the 6.
Nice.
Again, doesn't kill him.
Birder,
maybe,
what the hell?
But maybe the turn I struck, I didn't do any wounds, and that turn I did the wound. But turn 12, which ends up being the final turn, goes to me. I charged the Troll Chief with one, because he's broken and really close to being shattered. I'm broken at this point as well. I decide, rather than putting the Troll Chief back in, or rather than putting Birdo back into the Troll Chief, I just put an Orc in and got Birdo into the mouth of Sauron. Mostly because I was like, I'm not giving up any points for leader wounds, so rather than hope he rolls badly again, I'll try and kill it, take up his other stand fast. He had so few models left that I basically just engaged the rest of his army kind of accidentally. Birdo manages to put 1 wound on the mouth of Sauron. The rest of the fights kind of go as you would expect. I wasn't broken. I was 1 model away from breaking, and he gets the 1 model he needs to kill, which it was silly. I shouldn't have charged into him. I should have let him take courage tests and hopefully run away, and also potentially not have lost a model for that. But Birdo, like I said, does a wound to the mouth of Sauron, which doesn't matter. The Troll Chief then is fighting 1 Orc with a spear support and decides to barge them and is able to get into 2 more. So here we're sort of at the last part of the game. And yeah, I know, it was pretty sad. So the Troll Chief barges into 2 more, and he's like, oh, and then he doesn't win the fight. And he's like, oh, well, we can just end the game here. Because I was like, do you want to he got the model he needed to kill. I was like, he got the model to break me. I was like, you don't need to kill anymore. We can just call it here rather than doing the Troll Chief, I guess, if you want. And he's like, no, I want to kill stuff. And I was like, totally fine, that's fine. But he then loses the second combat, and he's fighting 2 Orcs. He's like, well, we can just call it now. And I'm like, no, I'm going to roll and try and kill your Troll Chief, which I don't get, but it would have been really funny. So, a long-winded explanation of what this game was, Ben. I've looked at the amount of time we've been recording, and I was blabbering on. It's been a while since I've done one of these, so I'm not succinct. But it was I assume, a major victory. It was 10-5 in my favor.
Nice. A well-fought, and Birdo reigns supreme as the chiefiest of the trolls.
Yes, indeed. All right, Ben, shall we go through your game 2?
All right, Sam, we will indeed go through my game 2, and I shall read the scenario this time. For round 2, we were all playing Reconnoiter, an old and familiar scenario, now revamped in new and interesting ways. We don't actually have any deployment zones for me to describe to you, but if you are watching, you can see this lack of deployment zones on this lovely map. Because we enter via reinforcements in Reconnoiter. You roll a d6 for each warband. On a 4 or better, they walk in from your board edge. If they fail to walk in, they get a +1 next round. The objective of this is to walk off of your opposing player's back board edge. You score 4 victory points if you have more models escaped via the opponent's board edge than your opponent. If you have at least 2 models and twice as many as them, you score 8 victory points. If you have had 3 models escape the board and 3 times as many as your opponent, you score 12 victory points. You score 1 victory point for each of your hero models that escapes the board to a maximum of 3. You score 1 victory point if the enemy general was wounded. 2 if they are killed, 1 victory point if the enemy army is broken, and 3 if they are broken and you are not. Well, Sam, so I was playing against your opponent from the previous round, Daniel, and we were playing on Matt Iverson's beautiful Osgiliath board. So we're playing Reconnoiter, and he takes first turn priority. I won the roll off, gave him priority. He moves on with both of his warband, and neither of mine show up. I rolled ones for both of them. So he moves forwards. I get next turn. Aomer shows up, but the captain rolls rolls a 2 this time, so the captain's not arriving yet either. And turn 3 rolls around. Captain finally shows up. Aomer and his warband have been riding forwards, and the streets on this Osgiliath map run like diagonally across the board, which is pretty cool for like firing lanes and breaking things up. And essentially, he had one of his warbands, the Mouth of Sauron, being one warband, and the Super Troll Chieftain being the other warband, in 2 different streets. And although I had taken 3 turns with my captain to arrive, because my horses are so fast, when we sort of get within threat range of each other, we're in the center of the board still. And essentially what happens is I am able to take most of my army, Aomer and the captain, and charge it into the Mouth of Sauron's warband. Aomer goes charging in, calls a heroic combat, and charges into the Mouth of Sauron and puts a wound on him. We get a move off in the next turn between the Mouth of Sauron and my captain. The move off goes to me. Aomer goes back into the Mouth of Sauron, kills him, and Aomer's warband essentially wrap up the Mouth of Sauron's warband. And the Troll Chieftain, while this has been happening, the Troll Chieftain's warband has been walking down the other street, starting to turn the corner, and the rest of my army has been sort of dispersing in front of the terrifying troll. And I should say, Sam, you are absolutely right about the temptation of Sauron being better against the evil models than against the good models, because my warriors of Rohan are highly educated and are all intelligence plus. So I only fail one of these, and it is this turn in which I fail it. He fell sights, or Sauron tempts my banner bearer, tempts him into charging the Troll Chieftain. So my banner bearer charges into the Troll Chieftain. So to back him up, Aomer charges into the Troll Chieftain, and my captain charges into the Troll Chieftain, and we're going to get some blood, and the rest of my army, most of the rest of my army, engages the orcs. I have been playing the objective somewhat. I've got 3 riders heading towards the back edge. One of them is much closer than the other one. We get a strike off in the combat phase with a strike between Aomer and the Troll Chieftain. Aomer strikes to a 1, so he goes up to fight 7. The Troll Chieftain goes up to fight 10. Wins the fight, and Daniel elected to kill my banner bearer with his first attack, which he successfully does. So there are no banner VPs in this scenario, but removing the reroll is nice, and then throws his other 2 attacks against Aomer, both of which fail to wound. So Aomer escapes his brush with the Troll Chieftain unscathed. The next priority goes to me. The Troll calls a move. My captain calls a move. The move off goes to me. My captain re-engages the troll. One of my warriors rides off the board. Aomer decides he's had enough of that troll, wants to go kill more orcs. The troll kills my captain this turn. Aomer kills 4 more orcs, which is actually, there it is. There's my banner bearer getting fell-sighted into the troll. Aomer kills 4 more orcs this turn, and I won a couple of other fights that I was surprised to win just from the number of dice coming back my way, and kill enough models this turn that the game is ended. I quarter him this turn. Didn't really mean to. I've only reconnoitered 1 model off the board, but still a major victory. I believe it's because no leader wounds were given. So it was 4 points for reconnoitering and 3 points for breaking without being broken. So 7-0. Nice. Yeah, it was a quick game. It's kind of ridiculous to be playing cavalry in reconnoiter and to only have 6 fewer models than your opponent. Like I had 17, he had 23.
Yeah.
So and after that first round of combat where Aomer killed 2 orcs and put 2 wounds onto them, put a wound onto the Mouth of Sauron, and then just walked through that warband. The numbers advantage was back my way. It was just, there really wasn't anything. This game was going to be mine pretty much from the beginning. Not a lot to say about it.
Cool. Well, good thing you don't have your score sheet then.
Hey, I did a pretty good job on that one. I remembered that one fairly well, although it was a fairly straightforward game. All right, Sam. So enough of my round 2. Tell me all about your round 2. Were you ambushing Burdur in reconnoitering?
Ben. I was. I'll try and go through this game quicker, which is I'm I spent a lot of time on the last one, but this one is definitely, I think, more interesting. So I was playing Avery, and he was playing Mighty Arnor. So he had Arvindui, Melbeth, two knights, a banner, and then just like I think he had 9 Arnor rangers and a bunch of Arnor warriors. Right, not a good matchup for me because he gets +1 to wound me. Decidedly not great. So I yeah, higher fight, higher defense. Yeah, this was a struggle for me to kill stuff for sure. So I did elect to ambush Berda, and you can kind of see in this. So he comes on turn 1. Avery rolls his foresight points, only gets 2. But don't worry, he's also got a Palantir, so he's probably going to go first at some point in time. So keep on theme then. I win priority on turn 1 and make Avery go first. And Arvin Dewey rolls on. Melbeth is delayed. His knee's acting up. He's having a hard time getting from camp.
Didn't see that coming,
Avery moves on, and he's like he's like looking at these two. There are 2 big ruins, or there's a big ruin and like a sort of like circle of terrain that he was like, yeah, sure. I was like, I don't know if I can come out of that one. He's like, yeah, that's fine. We'll say you can come out of that one as well. Like, I'm fine with it. I was like, all right, cool. But they're basically like 6 inches from the backboard edge.
Sure.
So he's walking Arvindui on. Melbeth's delayed. My Orc Captain's delayed. We get into turn 2. My Avery gets priority, makes me go first. My Orc Captain arrives, and you can see here, he just walks on, sends some War Riders off on one side. He sort of walks on in the middle. Basically, I'm trying to like catch Avery's army as they're going to come through. Melbeth, once again, delayed. So, which I'm like, ooh, I kind of want to know where he's going to go. So I really hope he shows up next turn. So Avery's now like walking Arvindui on sort of like in a conga line down the board because he's like worried about which ruin is it going to be this big one over here? Is it going to be this terrain over here? Like he's like, I don't know where he's going to come from. He's definitely all in his head about it. Hilarious. So turn 3 rolls round, Ben, when Avery...
It's a big turn 3. I mean, important turn.
Yeah. This is it. This is the turn that Berda supplies out of a closet. So Avery wins priority and makes me go first. I double-checked with him. I was like, just so you know, the rule Berda arrives after both players have moved, which is awesome. So you're not just good. Oh, look, I get to go first in this turn, and you can potentially react and charge him. So Melbeth does arrive, thank God, and he walks on sort of more... we'll get into that later. So he just walks straight on, and Arvindui's continuing doing this like snake line up the middle, like, and he's like, okay, well I've got like 5 archers that can shoot in this way, and I've got like 4 that can shoot this way. And then Berda shows up in a completely different ruin. He's like, bam, I'm here. I decided that it wasn't. I don't know that it would have been the right thing to do. Just show up and like then the next turn be able to move a bunch of my models off, because then I. Essentially, like, because Avery had like 30 something models, and if I'd moved Berda's entire warband off, I would have had to move too many models off for him to be able to like break me or quarter me and end the game. So I jumped Berda in. I sort of split his warband up between these 2 parts of these ruins, and Avery's like, "Oh my God, I didn't expect this at all," kind of thing. He does get some shooting. I put my banner in a dumb spot. And with like an in the way for a staircase, he like snipes and kills my banner. The only model he like kills with shooting, I think, the entire game. So that was kind of like, oh well, whoops. We get into turn 4 where we get into turn 4 where Avery once again wins priority and gives it to himself. I'm sitting here, and you can see in this picture if you're viewing, like Berda's right there, Melbeth, nothing in between Berda and Melbeth. I'm like, oh, it's a move. Berda's going to use one of his 3 points of might to call a move. Don't love to do it, but also like Arvindui is like terrified of him because Arvindui's only fight 5. So basically, if Berda strikes, he's probably going to outstrike Arvindui. So he wants nothing.
Berda's fight 7, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, fight 7. Nice.
Yeah. So the move. So then Arvindui calls a move. And sad face, Ben, the move goes to Avery, which was a pretty big deal, honestly. It was a pretty defining one, because what then ends up happening is Arvindui runs off and like makes sure he can't get into like Berda or anyone can't get into him. And then as you can see here, he basically just like pins Berda and his entire warband up against this wall. And I was joking with Avery, I was like, uh oh, he like put one model into him with one spear support, and then just a bunch of guys like just around so that Berda, even if he barged, was gonna get into like one dude. Which I was like, really, man? Like, really? That's what. So I was giving Avery a hard time because he was playing the very tactical way. Um,
Mm.
like many people do. But Avery's a good dude and actually will start to feel bad if I teased him long enough. So he sort of set himself up for failure because I knew I could make him feel bad. But I didn't, whatever. I don't really care. So the move goes, but I was joking with him in this situation. I was like, he's like put one model in. I was like, Avery, you just like pile him in because like if you win this fight, Berta's trapped up against this wall. You get +1 to wound. Like, oh, that's scary. We get into combat, Ben, and my captain calls a march this turn and just like flings dudes up. That is exactly what happened. Birdo like biffed the fight.
Oh
What his
no.
one dude in spear support won the fight. Luckily, they did no wounds to Birdo. But if he'd put like all of his dudes in there, like the game would have been done. Um, so next turn, I roll my priority, or Avery rolls his priority dice. He rolls a 2. I'm like, oh man. He's like, oh no, and I get a 2, but I'm like, I didn't have priority last turn, it's mine. And he's like, actually, I'm going to use a point of foresight and take priority again. So that was a bummer. So he took priority. I didn't call anything this time because I'm like, Birdo can't basically
Can't go
maximum can
anywhere.
go into like 2 models. There's no point. Um, he gets Arvindui a knight. Oh, I should say last time my hill troll like had a fight and killed a dude. This turn, he gets charged by 2 Knights of Arnor, Arvindui, and like a regular dude. Arvindui strikes and kills the Hill Troll,
Mm.
and I lose 5 models. Um, so that was a shame. I think I sort of like run out of pictures because there's the Hill Troll. So I think Birdo once again doesn't do anything. He either loses or I think he wins and maybe doesn't kill. I don't
Mm.
particularly remember. So there's poor Hill Troll being surrounded by knights. Avery, as you can see in this picture, after I gave him enough shit and Birdo rolled like shit, was like, fine, yeah, you're right. I'll just throw a bunch of dudes in. And threw like a bunch of dudes into Birdo, and Birdo got to chop up some guys. I think on this turn, I don't quite know where it is. My notes get very sketchy. Um, yeah, I think it was on this turn. Uh, I win the fight and kill like 4 of his models. I kill 2 models in contact and kill 2 spear support. So suddenly Birdo's like facing down 2 rangers. But basically Avery has killed the rest of my models that were on the side of the ruin close to his board edge. My
Hmm.
captain and the rest of my army are like wiggling up. I managed to get one of my Warg Riders like out to the flank, and he's a turn away from getting off the board. Uh, and I started like, and Avery was sort of like, oh man, like you should, like he killed all my Warg Riders. He's like, oh, take the courage test for the Wargs. I was like, I forgot that was a thing. I didn't bring any Warg models. Like, I'm not worried about it, dude. They're dead. Like, it's fine. I don't care. He was like, no, man, like, you gotta roll it, you gotta roll it. So he was like starting to feel bad, I think, about how the game was going, because he was just butchering me, and I really wasn't killing anything. And like, Birdo calls a heroic combat, fighting like 4 dudes or something. Fighting like, no, he was fighting enough that he could have got the combat off, and like, oh, it was like the next turn he was fighting 2 rangers.
Hmm.
One was spear sporting, caused the combat because I'm trying to get him off the board. Wins the combat and then rolls like two ones and a 2 to kill, and is like out of my
Oh,
maybe is like it doesn't matter. I
one
like
line
can't
left.
get the combat off, and I was like, oh man. Anyway, so I was like, Avery, you got it. Like you can't like what's gonna happen here, man, is like you're gonna kill me. You're gonna struggle to stop because he like walked most of his warband away. I'm like, you're gonna struggle to stop getting Birdo off the board. If Birdo gets off the board, you'll have been like feel bad and being like really nice to me, which I really appreciate. Like it was a much more fun game when he was just like, I'll throw dudes into Birdo and just like butcher you. But like he gets off the board, then it will be like shitty because I'll win because you like like took your foot off the gas basically. And we got to a point where he like kind of worked it out, and so I was broken. I had this one Warg Rider that would have moved off the board, and Birdo was really close. The Warg Rider, of course, failed his courage test. Birdo eventually gets off the board, And it got to the point where he was like fighting two rangers. Avery couldn't get anyone else back to him, and it was like he barged, pushed a ranger back, went into both of them, killed them both, and then like as long as he didn't run off, which he still had 3 will left in his courage 6+, he was going to get off the board. He counts as 4 models. Avery didn't have anyone get off the board at that point in time, so I would have tripled him. He was a character for 12 points, and he's a character, so it would have been 13-0 if the game ended, and I was like, I think 5 models away from break at that point of time, or quarter, because that's what it ends on. So Birdo gets off the board. We then get into the situation where I think I win priority, and I basically have my orc captain and his crew in the middle. Some of them are a bit spread out, and I'm like, Avery, you probably want to call a move and tie up as many of these guys as possible, because like, if they run away, which they're courage orc, the game's going to end, and I'm going to win. And so he was like, oh yeah, it makes sense. Called the move with Arvendu. Tied up some guys. There was still a decent number of them out of combat, and he moved some more towards the board edge. And I was like, I can't be the guy who's like up on my soapbox about being like, play like you're having fun and not just trying to win. And then take individual courage tests with orcs so that I quarter and win the game. So I was like, I'm going to take I have to take a courage test with my captain. I'm going to take the courage test, and I'm calling stand fast, because like I would be, if I were in Avery's shoes, I would be like, dude, you were kind of giving me shit at the beginning of the game. You're now like, and then I was like, he's like, oh, sorry, and then started playing in a like more fun for everyone kind of way, and then you're like, and now you're just gonna like let your orcs run away, so I lose? Like, fuck you, man. So I was like calling the stand fast. The captain passed his courage test, brought a bunch of orcs with him. There were a couple that were like far enough away. I think there was like 1 or 2 that still had to take their own courage test, and they failed. One of them was a warg rider, which I wasn't jazzed that he failed, because he would have like tried to zip away. So charge in, and like we do some more killing, and I'm still playing it strategically. I'm not throwing away. Like I charge as many of both his knights, because they can't shield. I charge Malbeth because he can't shield, and like Avery kills a couple of my models. I charge Arvindui, and so then we're getting into the next turn, and basically what ends up happening is Avery wins enough of the priorities in a row that he's able to tie up all of my models, and slowly get enough models off. So he ends up getting Arvindui and 1 model off, or 2 models off. He gets a knight Arvindui and a warrior of Arnor off, which means he has more models off than I do, and a character. So it ended up being, I think, 8-1.
Oh, because Arvendui's got dominant 3.
Yeah.
I was like, but Birdo's dominant 4, and he only moved 3 models off, Sam. No, dominant.
Yeah. So, well, because it's 3 for Arvindui, 1 for the guy, and then the knight.
Yeah.
So it was a really fun game. It started like really not well for me, just because like Birdo just like, any luck I had against that troll chief, I like used all of Birdo's luck for this game up apparently. But it was a really fun game. Like the idea that he can just plop down and reconnoiter and like run off or run a bunch of dudes off is like pretty terrifying. I think this is basically the only scenario we currently have where it would have been close. Because if it had just been killing or anything, he just would have butchered me, wouldn't have died, and it would have been a real struggle. But because I could basically teleport Birdo within 12 inches of a table edge from turn 3, he was like, couldn't really commit. And so it was a really fun game. Avery's a great opponent. I had an absolute blast. It was hilarious. And it was awesome for the like 4 turns because that was the thing. It was like there were like 4 turns the game was going on, that if I won a priority, like, orc captains fail courage on a regular basis. Plus we were getting progressively more spread out, so his stand fast was going to be affecting less and less. So it definitely still could have ended up a win. The game ended the way it should have. I think Avery won. Like, he was in the driver's seat of this game. It would have been a real feel bad if I had won, especially if it had been 13-0. Like, just,
Yeah.
So.
Well, it sounds like a fantastic game, and a super thematic matchup too. Birdo versus Arnor. The Warriors of Arnor, maybe they reclaimed their fallen banner from your orc standard bearer.
Yeah, I don't know about all that. and he was trampled in the dust, or shot to death, pin-cushioned. But yeah, it was a good game. It was pretty mean. The warriors of the men of Arnor just hate poor Berder and his horde for nothing. He's just trying to found a little troll village off in the foothills, and no, they gotta hate him. All right, Ben. I have once again talked and talked and talked. Let's get into your round three. So you have 2 minutes, and then I'll take the final 10.
All right. No, all right. So for my round three, we were playing. We were all playing for round three. Fog of War, Sam. Once a show favorite in the previous edition, and I suspect still a show favorite in this coming current edition. Jesus, words. Tell us all about Fog of War, Sam.
Oh, I will, Ben. If you are viewing, you can now see that I've put this beautiful deployment map up. I will have you know it's the exact same map as To the Death, but it is different. It's the same deployment zones, but it's
not the same map, Sam. It looks very different.
What?
So it's not the same map. It looks very different. There's trees.
I know, but it's the same deployment zones. And more specifically, I used the correct one in each.
Oh yeah. As you should.
All right, Ben. We finally have a game that lasts until somebody's broken, and then on one or two it may suddenly end.
Yes.
And then we have the world's largest amount of text for scoring victory points. We have, at the start of the game, secretly note down one of your own hero models. This may not be your general unless you only have one hero. You score one victory point if the nominated hero is still alive at the end of the game. If the nominated hero is still alive and suffered no wounds, instead you score 3. If the nominated hero is still alive and suffered no wounds and has spent no fate points, instead you score 5. At the start of the game, secretly note down one of your opponent's hero models. This may not be your opponent's general unless they only have one hero. You score one victory point for causing one or more wounds to the nominated hero. Wounds prevented by a successful fate roll do not count. If the nominated hero has been removed as a casualty, instead you score 3. If the nominated hero has been removed as a casualty as a result of one of your models wounding them in combat, instead you score 5 victory points. At the start of the game, secretly note down a single piece of terrain wholly within your opponent's half of the board. You score 1 victory point at the end of the game if you have more models than your opponent on or in base contact with the terrain. If at the end of the game you have at least 2 models and twice as many than your opponent, instead you score 3. If your opponent has no models on or in base contact with your chosen terrain, you instead, and you have at least 2, you instead score 5 victory points. You score 1 victory point if the enemy general was wounded during the game. If the enemy general was removed as a casualty, instead you score 2. You score 1 victory point if the enemy army is broken at the end of the game. If the enemy army is broken and your army is not, instead you score 3 victory points, Ben. Fog of War with some spicy subtleties.
Yeah, delicious. Delicious, very tasty, very spicy. So I was playing against Dave, who often goes to these New England events, and he and I have yet to have played each other, so this is super exciting to get to play each other. And he was playing Atop the Wall, which is also his first good army, I think. He got Gandalf the White painted up just before this event and decided to do Atop the Wall. So it's Gandalf on Shadowfax with Pippin and 18 warriors of Minas Tirith, one of whom has got a banner for a total of 20 models. So once again, I am not outnumbered by very much at all. I elected, we were fighting on a generic sort of fantasy board, maybe a bit of Rohan, and got some thatched roofs, which were made out of some sort of fuzzy like carpet material or something that were quite soothing to
Teddy bear fluff.
Yeah, they were very, very fuzzy roofed houses, and I was attempting to capture the one and only actual Rohan house on the board, as it was clearly home to the Horse Lords off on the flank there. I decided to try and kill Shadowfax, who is a hero in this edition. I could have elected to kill Pippin, but Shadowfax is technically easier to hit with a bow than Pippin is, so I chose to kill Shadowfax. And we will get right on into it. Dave wins the first roll-off for priority, and I go first. I don't know what I was thinking. I was not thinking clearly, Sam. I just rode my captain forwards of my battle line. Most of my battle line moved up half speed. My captain went off on the right, and I had this idea that he was going to ride around the back of Dave's lines over the coming turns and be this, like, I don't know what I was thinking. He's obviously the target that Dave is trying to kill because he can't kill Éomer, and he's obviously the one that I'm trying to protect. So he's like a 6-point or a 10-point swing or something. So he should have just been hiding all game. He wasn't. He rode forwards in Dave's turn. Gandalf spends Pippin's point of will and his free one, rides around the side of the building and sorceress blasts my captain. Gets 2 5s on his dice. My captain fails to resist. Is not wounded by the sorceress blast roll. I think Gandalf rolled a 2 to wound on the sorceress blast. Didn't want to spend 2 might on that, but is wounded, falling off his horse from the not flying result. And my captain spends his point of fate and fails his fate roll, another 1.
Did you Horse Lord? Because Horse Lord's now, if you're knocked off, you on a 6 you stay on, right?
Yeah, but you're automatically not flying by sorceress blast. You automatically roll a 1. Right, you're not prone and automatically not flying off the horse.
Right, I know. I just think anyway. I'm going to look it up and I'm going to correct you in a minute.
Interesting. I didn't think to do that. No. Anyway, so my captain is off his horse, out of will, out of fate, and on 1 wound on turn 1, which was not the way we wanted to start the game. I do manage to get a single shooting kill this turn. And we go into turn 2 where Dave takes priority and once again gives it to me. My captain runs and hides behind the building. My horse warriors move up another 5 inches, unleash another hail of arrows, don't inflict any casualties. Gandalf sorceress blasts and kills one of my riders. Spends another point of his own will, this time just to kill a rider. I take turn 3 priority and give it to myself, and we charge into the men of Minas Tirith. Half, or I don't know, 2/3 of Gandalf's warband are between 2 houses in his deployment zone, and a couple of them have gone off onto my left-hand flank, which is where Éomer goes. This turn, Gandalf calls a heroic channel using Pippin's might, and sorceress blasts Éomer. Éomer spends 2 points of will. I probably should have just spent all 3 because I really needed to get some traction in this game, get back in control, having thrown away my captain foolishly. I spent 2 points of will, hoping for the 5 to spend a point of might. I roll a 2 high, and Éomer is dehorsed off of Firefoot this turn. Yep.
I have an update.
Yep.
I was wrong about Horse Lord. I was thinking of Aragorn's Brago special rule. Horse Lord is now just a 6+ save if your horse is wounded, and then you can still use your fate to save it. So it's a bonus save. Expert Rider no longer re-rolls the Thrown Rider test.
Oh, interesting.
So
it would have been no re-rolls on the Thrown Rider test, regardless of being not flying automatically by Sorcerer's Blast. Yeah, so Éomer's not flying as well this turn.
I lied. It still does that. I lied. I just can't read.
Oh, you still well. Either way, Sorcerer's Blast.
Either way, you did it correctly. I just wanted to make sure that people knew I wasn't a total idiot.
Éomer, so he spends 2 points of will. Also has to spend a point of fate because he's wounded by the actual blast, not by falling off of his horse. I get only a single kill this turn. Éomer does call a free heroic combat, shields because he's not prone, wins his fight and stands back up. The 2 warriors of Minas Tirith that he's fighting are not prone by Gandalf's blast. I kill 1 warrior and lose 2 this turn, where I charged into Dave's battle line in the center of the battlefield. I just lost all the fights, and warriors of Minas Tirith wounding me on 5s. Lost 2 riders this turn. I take the next turn priority and elect to keep priority. And basically just charged back in. Gandalf spends another 2 will and a might this time to Sorceress Blast. He just is blasting regular warriors of Rohan at this point. No, I'm sorry. He spent the 2 will to Sorceress Blast Éomer, failed to get it off, and spent the might on his combat. Gandalf was fighting 2 of my riders who had tried to ride around the back in the backfield. Gandalf spends might to win that fight. Éomer calls a free heroic combat and has to spend a point of might to kill his second model because he's not mounted anymore. He's only strength 4. The men of Minas Tirith are in shield wall. They're a lot harder to get through. I get 2 kills this turn and lose 3. Not what we like to see. Next turn priority once again goes to me. I keep priority. Éomer calls another heroic combat this turn. I get 4 kills and only lose 1. And Gandalf is the killer there. He's Sorceress blasting away, spending another will, getting another kill with the Sorceress Blast. And that's pretty much the story of this game, is me winning the rest of the priorities and Dave blasting away with Gandalf. Towards the end of the game, Gandalf rides around on Shadowfax behind my back lines to attempt to hunt down my captain. We get a move off where my captain is able to run and hide for a turn. Move off between Gandalf and my captain. I win the move off. Captain's able to run and hide, but ultimately Gandalf manages to hunt down my captain. Sorcerer's blasting him away. On the last turn of the game, Gandalf calls a heroic combat with the intention of killing the model that he's fighting and riding back to claim his terrain piece. He's fighting one Rider of Rohan. Gandalf's 3 attacks now, strength 5 with Glamdring. He only needs 4s to kill my Rider of Rohan and get what counts for 2 models, 4 models onto his terrain feature, and Gandalf fails to kill my Rider. Doesn't have enough might, rolls are too high, doesn't have enough might left to kill that Rider. Unfortunately, I only managed to get 1 Rider into my terrain feature, and I was broken at the top of the last turn, and Dave, having taken priority on this last turn, rolls the dice and gets a 2, and the game suddenly ends. So it is a 9-4 victory to him. He successfully protected his target. No generals were wounded. I only had 1 model in base contact with my terrain feature. He didn't score his terrain feature. So a super fun game. I had an absolute blast. Dave was my vote for favorite opponent. Just kicking myself for just throwing my captain away. I don't know what I just wasn't thinking. Made a mistake, and it definitely put me on the back foot for most of this game. But Heroic Channel is really cool in this edition and makes Wizards interesting to play around for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited to use Saruman and some Heroic Channels at some point.
Yeah. I'm glad you're coming back around on Saruman. You were pretty bummed out about Isengard for a first edition. It seems like you're coming around a little bit.
Still think they're pretty bad. Or that, I don't know. I'm still disappointed. Mostly because I just really thought I was going to get Fight 5 Uruk-hai and it was going to be glorious.
Yeah, I mean, Berserkers, 5/5.
Yeah. But, yeah. And Shield Wall is just such a miss. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I'm going to play them. It'll be fine. I'm going to flame burst the shit out of some people with Heroic Channels.
Awesome. All right, Sam. So that was my third and final round. Tell me all about yours.
All right, Ben. I was playing against Ed, and Ed was playing a wild army. Ben, he was playing the army of Gundabad. He had a single Gundabad orc captain. He had four ogres, a bunch of berserkers, a banner, and a bat.
Wow.
So
probably not even that many berserkers with 4 ogres at 450 points.
No, it wasn't. It was not that many. I think it was like
5
6 or
6.
something. Yeah. Anyway, kind of a hilarious army. I was super excited for my hill troll to outfight some ogres. And obviously it was really easy. It was kind of like the lamest game of Fog of War because I knew he was trying to protect his general and I was trying to kill his general, and he knew I was trying to protect my orc captain and he was trying to kill my orc captain. So we both knew it was basically like the only fog in this war was which terrain pieces we were trying to get. So this was just such a weird game. He ends up split. So these trees here are my deploy or the thing I'm trying to take because nobody really wants to fight in trees, but I have woodland creature, so I don't mind. So he splits his ogres. 2 of them go around this flank, as do his bats, and the other 2 sort of clog the gap up between these trees. We have a couple, basically what ends up happening is Berda and the Hill Troll go into an ogre apiece, and it takes me a couple turns. He on the first turn of combat, I think I think the Hill Troll won his fight and did 2 wounds to the ogre, leaving it on 1 wound. Berda won his fight and did 1 or no wounds to the ogre, and then he was like, "Oh, I've actually trapped him. I accidentally trapped this ogre, so you get 3 more." So I was like, "Okay, sure, take 3 more strikes, 3 wounds to the ogre." So I was like, "Oof, punished for being nice." And then he rolls, and he was using the Feel No Pain banner and passes one of the saves, so the ogre's still up, and I was like, "Oh, that's not punished for being nice, still annoying." And then it took me forever to get through these ogres, and eventually one of them kills my Hill Troll. Berda has to we do this swap move because my Hill Troll goes down to one wound. Berda's killed the model. He's fighting. So yeah, it was just like super weird. We basically like fought in one really condensed thing. I've sent my Warg Riders. You can just about see them in this bet. I sent 3 of my 4 or my 5 Warg Riders to go chase down his captain because his captain just kept running away because he's like, which makes sense. He's trying to protect him. He only gets his army bonuses if the captain's alive, and it takes my Warg Riders like a lot of turns to kill him. I think I won every fight against his captain until he got a berserker back to help him and eventually killed one. But it was like 3 Warg Riders. It was like 12 dice, like granted looking for 6s, and I got like 1 wound. And then like the next turn it was like 8 dice and it's like no wounds. I was like, I just need to kill this dude. So I eventually do kill him. We finally on the turn we break. He uses the Horn of Gorgoroth, which means both of his ogres stick around, or the 2 remaining ogres he has sticks around. My Orc captain unfortunately runs away.
Oh no!
This is and then we play a few more turns, and what ends up happening is basically his 2 ogres hold his terrain piece, I hold my terrain piece, and it ends up being a really close game, 13-2 or 13-11 is how we scored it, which is all wrong because I didn't properly read the things when I was working out the score. But there's sort of like 2 things I'm kicking myself. One, my Orc captain didn't spend any of his might or his will, and I rolled like a 7 on my courage test, which my courage has been bumped up to a 9 because of the horn, and I could have spent resources to pass. Annoyed, I should have checked it, but I was just like, okay, he runs away. Fine, whatever, doesn't really matter. But then at the end of the game, I didn't realize, and actually until today, that captain, I gave him the full 5 points for killing the captain. He's only worth 3 because he's dead, but he wasn't killed in combat.
Oh, yep.
So it should have been, I guess, 9-13, which again doesn't matter, but it's just one of those funny things with the new edition. Same scenarios, but they are different. So things are, just. It's, I realized I was like, ooh, I scored that one wrong. And same in my first game. Like, I scored it right, but I didn't realize until I was working out the score that I got points for killing heroes. Would have made a more concerted effort to kill the Troll Chief, kill the Mouth of Sauron, and all of these things. So important lessons have been learned is to actually read the scenarios, Ben.
Absolutely. Oh, well, there we have it. A not so tiny covering of tiny. No, this isn't Tiny Wars. This is a not so mini covering of Mini Earth. There we go.
Yeah. It was great, good fun. I thoroughly enjoyed my first event in the new edition.
Yeah.
Got the winning record, which is always fun. I need to set myself challenges, I think, for events because I forgot Birdo his General Hunter. So didn't ever get that off, and I forgot his heroic challenge, and I have yet to use heroic challenge in this edition, and I really need to.
Doesn't he get something for killing monsters and heroes as well?
He gets something for killing heroes.
That against the ogres.
He gets something for killing heroes. You might be right on. It's monsters as well for sure. Yeah. So
he becomes a banner. He gets something.
Friendly orc or troll models counts as him a banner.
Okay, yeah.
If he kills 3 or more, he counts as a 6-inch banner.
Nice.
And if he kills a hero, he is, enemy hero in combat. He becomes fearless. So, yeah. Anyway, so need to actually know my rules. I'm excited to play the army again. It was fun. Good event.
Yeah, super great event. Glad we did it. It was a super long drive for both of us. It's halfway just about between Sam and I, so a cool 5-hour drive for each of us.
Yeah. Do you happen to know? Do you remember? I remember who came in first and second, which we should go over.
I do know third place as well.
Cool. All right. Do you want to start it off? Should we go from third to first?
All right. So in third place we had Cody, who was playing Ugluk Scouts. But he's been working on the army for a while, so he said he's playing it before it was cool.
Fair.
In second place, we have Matt Iverson, who was playing the Garrison of Dale with Girion and a Windlance. And in first place, we have Avery. Well done, Avery. Way to go. 3-0,
on
bringing home the win.
on the shoulders of
On the shoulders of
playing the
Hillcroft.
game for fun.
And best sportsman went to Dave, who I think definitely deserved it. Dave's super fun to play. Glad I got to play against him. I think this might be the first event where I actually got to play against the person that won best sportsman, so that's super exciting.
That's not true, Ben. We
No, that's
talk
not
about
true.
this
Well,
every time, and it ends up being a fair number of them. But you
just
say it
kidding.
every time.
Well, okay, there we go.
All right, yeah, great event. Definitely enjoyed it. I really enjoy the small points games and that's catching on a little bit more.
Absolutely.
Before we wrap up this episode, Ben, do you happen to know where we can find you next?
Ooh, well, the next place that I might try and attend the Valentine's Day Massacre, which is in
Okay.
Acton, Massachusetts at Game Tech, on the 15th of February. After that, I will for sure be at Treasure Trove Keep up here in Maine doing the second round of my slow grow. I will be growing slowly to 500 points, be adding a snow troll to my Besiegers of Edoras forces. Very excited about that. And then after that, the next one that I can think of that I have scheduled is Adepticon, although there might be another one in the beginning of March that I've forgotten about.
Very nice. Very
What
nice.
about you, Sam? Where will we find you in the coming weeks?
Well, Ben, on February 22nd, I will be attending Flight to the Ford, which is a 600-point event held at Bazooka Games in Westminster, Maryland. On March 8th, I will be attending the Mickle Delving Matham Society Winter Classic 2025, which I believe is a 650-point tournament in Burke, Virginia. And then it shall be Adepticon for me. And then, Ben, already have one scheduled after Adepticon on
Look at you.
April 12th, the Siege of Minas Morgul, a 700-point grand tournament where rumor has it that there will be a crown of Morgul crown, right? That's
Crown
what
of
it's called?
Morgul.
The Crown of Morgul,
Yeah.
up for grabs either as a trophy to win or a raffle. It sounds like it's going to be a really cool event. So those are the places that you can find me next, and you can just concede all your games so I can win a cool hat.
Nice. As long as you're not proposing draws, it's all okay.
Yes, fair. Well, Ben, I think before we go, I got too excited about all of my games to mention, Ben, that Gondor Calls for Ale is still officially sponsored by the Baron of Dice,
Nice.
the maker of premium wargaming dice. If you want some of these beautiful hand-swirled resin dice with no microbubbles, you can look no further than the description of wherever you're listening to or watching this episode. You can follow that link to get some glorious Middle-earth themed dice, and you can use our promo code of capital G, capital C, capital A to get a delicious discount on those dice and other gaming accessories.
Nice. Good plug there. Way to get it in at the end.
Right, in at the death. Yeah, so is there anything else you wish to say, do, or talk about before we wrap up this fairly long episode?
No, Sam, this is quite a long episode. Look at that. We're over an hour and a half of recording time already. So I think I will just bid you a fond farewell, listener and viewer, and look forward to seeing you next time, because I can't see you. Through your radio, the eye of Sauron, the eye of Ben watches.
All right, we've gone too long on this. Yes, thank you for listening. Thank you for viewing. Please do the social media stuff, like, subscribe, all that stuff, and consider checking out our Patreon. Thanks again to all our current Patreons, and goodbye for now. Thank you for listening to Gondor Calls for Ale. We hope you have enjoyed this episode. We, at Gondor Calls for Ale, are officially sponsored by the Baron of Dice, the producer of premium wargaming dice. These beautifully hand-swirled resin dice have no microbubbles and are therefore perfectly balanced. With over 3,000 variants and unique designs, nearly every tabletop gaming system is represented. So check out the description of this episode for a link and a discount code. Go buy yourself some new dice and let the good times roll. We at Gondor Calls for Ale are not associated with Games Workshop, New Line Cinema, or the Tolkien Estate. We hope we have not misrepresented or offended anyone,
These recordings are strictly recollections of games we've played and are not commentaries on the character or competence of our opponents. They are intended purely for entertainment, and we hope they will be taken as such. You can find us on Patreon, see the link in the description. Supporting Gondor Calls for Ale there helps us continue to produce these episodes. You can find us on Instagram at Gondor_calls_for_ale. Feel free to send us a message there. Or on Facebook as Gondor Calls for Ale, another great place to send us a message. Or you can send us an email at gondorcallsforale@gmail.com. As Boromir, Captain of the White Tower, once said, remember today, listener, today this episode was good.